Hey, how's everybody doing this evening, huh? Hey, Billy and I, we was out at an antique shop today out in Knox, Indiana. And it's the name of the place is Born in the Barn. And they're out in Knox. And man, I picked up this really nice flashlight from them. Bought this flashlight from them, man. Check this out. But you know what the good thing is? I bought this flashlight. They threw in a free clock. Hey, let's go have a look. How about it? Well, we'll take off and walk into the old workshop here, see what we got going on. Well, there she is. Hey, let me stand it up. It's an old Ingraham. Old Ingraham right there. Needs a little loving. The old top's kind of scarred up. Looks like another clock. You know what? Sometimes I don't get my my subject in the middle of this filming here. Well, anyway, looks like it probably took a fall at one time. Right there. See that little dent right there? Hit her on the corner. Got the bezel right here. No glass. Needs to be either soldered on, or I've got another way of putting these on. This one here tucks in a little slot there, and I'm able to put that on without soldering it. But all in all, let's stand it up here. It's a pretty fair clock. It just needs a little gone through here. It doesn't run. One thing's wrong with it. Something's bent. When it fell, it must have bent something in there, so it doesn't run. I'm going to guess the age of this clock. It's got the adjuster, the time adjuster up here, and most Ingrahams had a slot here early on. Like they started making Mantle clocks around 1880, and they had a slot here, fast or slow, right there. And I have one that's from 1920, and they moved this up here, so I'm gonna kind of guess that's 1920. But you know what? An Ingraham clock, when you pull the dial off of there, usually the date is on the movement. And I'm about ready to pull this thing apart any second here, and get that movement out and give it a bath, and kind of go through the cabinet on this. Like I say from my previous videos, I do not restore clocks. What I do is I take them apart and I detail the clocks. I clean the movements, fix anything that need to be fixed on the movement, or try to detail the clock case up a little bit and make it look nice. Let me show you that Ingraham clock I got from 1920 that I know the date on that one. It's an old black Mantle. Hold on a sec. Alrighty, here's the old Ingraham clock I have. That one there is from 1920 because the date's on the movement. And hope it's not too dark, but right there is where you adjust the speed, right there. It's a good runner. I don't have it started right now. I gotta admit something to you. It took me a while to find this clock. I guess I got too many clocks. When it takes a while to find a certain clock, I think you may have too many clocks. I think I'm getting close to 90 clocks now. Hey, before I get started with this project, I thought while I was looking at my clocks, I kind of wanted you to see this one right here. That's an old Ingraham clock. That's probably one of their first Mantle clocks they put out. That one dates back to 1880. That thing runs perfect. I did put a spring in it about 5 or 6 years ago. I bought that over in LaPorte at Coachman Antique Mall. And I've cleaned the movement a couple of times on it since I've had it, and I don't have it running right now, but it does take a spot up in the upstairs. Every now and then I'll bring it up and display it up there. Right now I'm in my basement, and as you see, I've got a line of Mantles here. That one on the bottom's a Waterbury. That one there is a Ingraham from 1899, and we got a Sessions, and then that one I showed you, and on the top we got an old Sessions clock. That was a parts clock at one time. I got a movement from one clock, a dial from another clock, a case from another clock, and it runs okay. It's not the best clock I got, but anyway. Well, let's get back to our project. All right, I got the face off this clock, and like I was saying, the date. Let me see if I can get some light on the subject here. I don't know if you can read into this or not. I keep wanting to get the picture off to the side. Let me get closer and closer until I read it on the phone. And it's from 1929. If you can see right to the right of where the suspension spring is hanging, it says 29 there. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see if it has any other information there. It just says, well, yeah, here. 3. Oh, there we go. 3 on this side. See that? It says 3/29. So that's March of 1929. This clock was made right around the time of the Great Depression, actually. Like I said, in the 20s, they moved the adjuster up here, right here. And I'm going to have to see if I got a correct key for it. The guy did send me home with a key. It really wasn't the correct key for this. You know what? I want to mention one thing here. Here we are. Here's the screw that came out of the dial, the face right here. And they're all the correct screws and everything. But when you're working on a clock, okay, one thing you never want to do, and promise me, for God's sakes, don't ever do this. Don't put a Phillips screw in an old clock. They didn't make Phillips screws in 1929. They started using Phillips screws in cars in the late 50s, I think, or something like that. They did not have Phillips screws. So don't, if you got a screw missing or something like that, try to get the right screws that go into your clock, because there is no Phillips screws on here. You know, it's kind of like fixing a dented fender with duct tape. You know, just, you know, you got to have a little finesse. You know, maybe my clock repair isn't, the greatest or whatever, but when I get a clock done, it's usually right, like with no Phillips screws and no duct tape or whatever. You know what I mean? There's some things you just need to avoid. I just wanted to throw that in there. Also, I have this bezel laying here. I'm going to clean it up and work on it a little bit. I don't see anything wrong with it. As you can see, it does not have a glass. And I got a good feeling that this glass is not flat that went in there. I got a good feeling it had a convex glass that went on there. There's two things I can do. In fact, I will. I'm going to cut a glass for this. I'm going to cut a piece of flat glass and put in here. However, it will not fit the clock as you see it, because the hands will stick out too far to allow a flat glass in this clock. But what you can do, what I have done before, is when I put the movement back in the clock, I'll put some washers and bring the movement back away so a piece of flat glass will fit on here. Now, it's not correct, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily put a piece of glass in this. I'll cut it. Look, this isn't the right size, but I might even cut it out of this one. I'll cut a circle like this, install it in here, put this together so I have the clock together. But in the meantime, I'm going to measure this, and the curved glass is pretty readily available, so when it comes in, I will take the movement back out, move it back into where it goes, take this glass out of here. There's tabs in here, so I don't have to do any kind of permanent mounting or anything. I can just move the tabs out of the way, and that's what we're going to do this evening anyway. And then in the meantime, like I said, I will measure this and I'll get the right glass and put it in there. I don't recall ever seeing an Ingraham clock with that type of glass. In the Sessions clocks, that's pretty popular. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. Here's a Sessions timbre style Mantle clock, or Mantle clock. As you can see, it's got curved glass in it, like this. That's what this clock should take that I'm working on. But anyway, yeah, I'll get that ordered, and it'll be a week or so before that comes in. But right now, I'm going to back that movement off with some washers and put a piece of flat glass in there, and I'm pretty sure it'll work. Here's part of the bezel of this clock. If you can see, let me lay this down. I'm working on it right now, and I got half of this cleaned off. It took me just a second. See how nice that looks right there? Okay, here's the side I never touched right here. You see the difference? There's a lot of dirt and everything that's just caked on there through the years. That's a piece of steel wool, but it's just not an ordinary piece of steel wool. You go down to the hardware store and you get steel wool called, there's so many different grades of steel wool. This is super fine. That's what you want to work on this kind of stuff. It doesn't scratch. It's kind of almost like using the rubbing compound, I would say. I usually do my shopping for this kind of stuff at Cableton Hardware in LaPorte. You know what? I got nothing against the big box stores, but at Cableton's in LaPorte or Walkerton or wherever they have an Ace Hardware, you can walk in there. Somebody's meeting you at the door. You got good service. You say, hey, I want a piece of super fine steel wool. They take you by the hand. They lead you over there. They point at it and say, there it is right there. It takes you 2 seconds. You go out. You save a lot of time and money going to the mom and pop places, I'm telling you. Well, I got this bezel all cleaned up, but I want to show you something that's in 2 parts. See, this part here needs to go into that slot. Then on the reverse, it was soldered right there. So what we're going to do is put this together the way it fits, and I'm going to get my solder gun out, and we're going to solder that right there and fix it up. Alright, I got the bezel put together, haven't soldered it yet, but here's where we're going to solder it right here. Shouldn't take much more than a second after the old solder heats up on that. This brass stuff is easy to solder. We're going to see if we can't get this thing to solder. Hope you can see okay. And the old solder gun's stinking. Without even putting any solder on, I'm just going to touch it just a little bit to see what happens. There's actually solder coming from somewhere already without putting any more solder on it. Let me just kind of bring it up this way a little bit, get that solder to run. That might have did it right there. I didn't even touch any solder on it. Just used the old stuff. Now, let's open it up. Let's open it up and see if it sticks, though. That'd be the main thing, to see if it stuck. Let's not pry on it too much. You know, you could do like Tim the Toolman Taylor and do a little more, you know, and then wreck it. Oh, let's do a little more and see what happens. You know, sometimes you're just not happy with results, you know. There, right there. I wish I could get it right there. Perfecto, as they say down in the hood. Oh yeah. Beautimous. Okay, what I'm going to attempt to do here next is, got this old piece of glass from a last project. This actually came out of a clock that was too small for the clock. So I'm going to lay it here on this bezel like this here. If you can see that, I'm going to take this red pen And I'm going to be real careful. And I'm going to kind of draw the daylight out on this clock bezel. See how this happens. It's got to be real easy. You kind of spin it, and then kind of fulcrum your hand in the center like a compass. You know, you don't have to, and remember the outside of the line is what you go with. Okay, you got to do this about in quarters, I guess. Line it back up. Now let's see here. About 2 more times of this. Kids, don't try this at home. Okay, one more time. Just a little short draw here. Make sure you got it. Now what I'm doing here, I'm tracing out the daylight opening of this thing. So anything on the outside of this red line, that's daylight on the outside of the red line. If I was to cut it right there on the outside of that red line, it would be too small. So what we're going to do, so we're going to use our judgment here. Get that out of the way. Also, if you're ever using a glass cutter, grab some oil. I use this clock oil up here because it's handy. Can you see what I'm doing? Oil your blade right there. Oil the wheel. Never ever cut your glass without having some lube on the glass cutter. All right. Now what we're going to do here, this ain't a very big board. Let me get a bigger board. Always cut your glass on something flat. See, this is foam right here. That's not a good thing to cut glass on. You can't go cut glass on a piece of foam that's a ½ inch thick. So I lay that right there. Now what I'm going to do, let's see if you can see that. Okay, instead of cutting on the mark, I'm going to give myself a 1/16 of an inch on the outside of this. So I haven't decided which way I'm going to cut this yet. Well, we'll start right here. Of course, I can't see what the hell I'm doing. I think if I cut it going the other way, maybe I could see better. Doing the dance. You're not supposed to stop when you're using a glass cutter. You're supposed to make one cut, but a little bit more, come on. Do it to it. Come to the end of the road there. I do have glass pliers out in the shed, but we're going to live dangerously. We're going to use the old $2 pliers there. Now what you need to do is make some relief cuts here and there. I'm going to make them on the big side, like that. Now we take this, and if you're a church-going bunch, say a couple prayers. It's all right. I do. I try to go when I'm off. Can you see what I'm doing there? Can you see this? There's a piece came off. I didn't want it to, but it did. Kind of want to be fancy, go all around this, but look at me go. Is it gonna fit? Looks like socks on a fit like socks on a duck, they say. It's kind of round. Let's see how close we are. I believe she'll fit when I get done giving it some loving. Let's see if it covers. Yeah. I think it'll be fine. Look at that. Now what you got to do is, you know, you see me hacking and gouging on that thing and it's kind of rough. I'm going to go over it a little bit with these pliers, round these up a little bit. Then, where am I? Take this sanding wheel here. It's got enough sandpaper on it. Put it on the drill and use it for my to finish the edges on that. Get her spinning. Finish the edge off on the glass like this. We'll take the rough spots off. Kind of round it up a little bit because I did freehand it, you know. I didn't use a compass or a compass glass cutter or anything like that. So got to kind of use your own judgment on that kind of stuff. You can also lay this down. Make sure you're not laying it where it's going to get scratched. And run it like this. You can see that kind of around the table. Make sure there's nothing on the table. I mean, there's a million different ways of polishing glass. This is the way I got here at home. Alright, I got that glass cut like I was showing you, and I got it installed. The tabs are bent down. The glass fits pretty good in there. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, this probably did not have a flat glass in it. As you can see, the dial is curved on this. So I'll probably end up taking this movement when I take it out, backing it up a little bit so I can use this flat glass, but like I said, in the meantime we'll find the right glass for it. Alright, I got this movement out of the old Ingraham, and it's wound, but she don't like to run. It's pretty dirty. Well, I took the movement upstairs, and it's got some things going on with it. It's still got a fairly good finish. It kind of looks like an oak style clock. I don't know if it's oak or what. It sure has got a few dings in her though. It's not perfect. That side's good. That side's a little beat up. I don't think there's much I'm going to be able to do with that. Just kind of smooth it off a little bit. This back is loose right here. Gonna have to fix that up. I got to cut a back for it. Got to go out in the barn, cut a back for it. No back for the clock. It does have the tab on it. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this movement up, or not the movement, but the clock case as best I can. I'm going to take some 600. You know, sometimes you see me with some sandpaper on this finish. I'm not using a coarse sandpaper. I'm using a very fine grit. I go with 600 to 1,000 and kind of work it like a car finish, I guess. But just the top is a little bit worn. I'm going to try to do some with that, but we'll see. All right, I'm coming along with this old 1929 Ingraham clock. I got it all apart here. Got the movement. Let me square up this movement with the picture. Got this movement oiled up. Got it washed up. Should run. Is it running? Yeah, it was running. I need two hands to make it run. Let's see. There we go. It's running free. It took me a while to get it started. Man, that thing was kind of froze up. I think it's going to have to run for a while, get lubed up. Nice movement. I got the glass cut, as you see. Let's see. And like I said, this is supposed to get a curved glass. We'll see what we can do with this one, though. Got the bezel all shined up. Got it soldered in there. Working on the case. This is the best I could do. Like I said, I don't refinish them. I just detail the case, kind of like the guy detailing a used car. That's about it. Right now, what I've done to that case is I've had some super fine steel wool. I went on the case with I took some stain, colonial American stain, went all over the case, covered up all the nicks and everything that was on there. This corner had, right here I showed you earlier, it had fell probably off a shelf and hit this corner, and I was able to take and pound this corner down and kind of reshape it a little bit. You can tell it's a little bit defective, and there was another spot on this clock too where it kind of bounced. Oh, right here I took and filed this down so it's not so noticeable right there, but it's still damaged. I mean, the damage didn't go away, but I took and filed it smooth, and then I stained it so you don't see it. I'm kind of waiting for this. I got after I got done wiping it down with the steel wool and the stain and everything, I got some Johnson wax. Got some Johnson wax on there. Let me see if I can find it, what I did with it. The old Johnson paste wax right there. Went on the clock. I'm kind of waiting for it to dry up a little bit. And then I'm going to take this buffing wheel here for my drill and buff the clock out. And then kind of wipe it down with a dry towel after that. Should look pretty nice. Also with this frame, I went ahead and I cut the back for it. It had no back. So I went out in the garage and cut a back for it. It looks kind of like that. Stained it about the color of the clock. And it's going to be a nice one when I get done, I'm pretty sure. But I got to get that, the only thing I'm worried about on this clock is the curved glass that goes in the front. And we'll see about that. I'm going ahead on putting the movement back in the clock. I just wanted to show you a little tool I got that's handy. You know, you're using the old flat screws. So I think this is called a Hemostat. It's a surgical tool, I guess. I think the hippies back in the 60s had a use for this. But anyway, it's kind of a spring metal, and you can get a pretty good sized screw on that. You see that? Then you take your screw and you can put your screw down in there, and you don't have to worry about fighting that. You know, if you use a magnetic screwdriver, it sticks to a lot of the parts on that movement there, and it's pretty hard to use. And then a non-magnetic screwdriver like this, well, you got to put the screw in at some point. So that's a good idea, is using the hemostats like that. You just put the screw in the hole, turn it a few times, and then use your screwdriver. Okay, I've got the movement in, and as you can see, it's running. When you're working on an Ingraham clock, before you put the face on, what you really want to do is make sure you got the beat set on a clock, because everything you need to bend on an Ingraham clock is up in front of the clock. Session, Seth Thomas, the rest of them, all that stuff's in the back, and you can open the back up and go ahead and set your beat. But the suspension spring and all the other parts that you need to bend around to set that beat is located in the front of that clock. That's one thing I don't like about the Ingraham clock, because if you sit it on the table and the table's uneven or something, you just can't reach around the back and set the beat on the clock. You got to take the face off and do it that way. So far she's run pretty good. Let's take a listen. I might adjust it just a little bit, but it would probably run the way it is. The table that's sitting on is fairly level, but we'll see. I did end up adjusting the beat. If you can see that little wire that comes down on the suspension spring, goes around the suspension rod there, goes back and forth. I just bent that. I lifted the clock up, and I heard it ticking a little bit better, and I ended up just bending that a little bit to the left, and maybe you could even tell the difference. That should run. Well, I'm gonna go and put the face on and see if it'll fit. I did, when I put the movement in, I did back it off of the case just a little bit, maybe about 1/8 of an inch, maybe not that much, but we'll see if the face fits. Alrighty, it's going on 3:30 in the morning Central Time. I bought this clock today. I've been working on it all night, and found a key that'll fit. Change the plans on the glass. I cut that glass, and I could not get the, like I was kind of suspecting, you can't get a flat glass to fit in there even if you back the movement out. It just wouldn't be right. So hey, I had a piece of curved glass laying around after all. It's 5.5 inches. I'll just order myself another one later on, and yeah, it looks pretty good. Got it shined up, made the back, got the back going. I'll give you a close-up view of this. This is a nice clock, actually. I'm going to take it upstairs tonight and put it in the dining room and start it up and kind of watch to see how the time is on it and set the time, and then I'll find a place for it later on. Alright, it's all done. As you can see, the top is a lot nicer than it was when I got it. Alright, I brought it upstairs. I set it here on a china cabinet. I always sit my clocks here and let them run for a while, and then I decide what I'm doing with them. It looks like a pretty nice clock. Turned out pretty nice. Let's see if the hands are set right. 12 o'clock. Okay. Well, that's what time it is right now. Well, that just about does it. It's old 1929 Ingraham clock. I found it out in Knox at Born in the Barn Antiques. Got a good deal on her. And not a bad looking old thing here. 1929, oh yeah. All right, talk to you later. Thanks for watching. There's a red house over yonder. That's where my baby stays. There's a red house over yonder. Yeah, that's where my baby stays. I ain't seen my baby in 99 1/2 days. Wait a minute, something's wrong here. My key won't knock the door. Wait a minute, something's wrong. My key won't knock the door. Got a bad, bad feeling. My baby don't live here no more. That's okay, cause I got my guitar. Guess I'll go over yonder. Way back in the hills. Guess I'll go over yonder. Way back in the hills. My baby don't love me. I know her sister will.